I had a baking and pastry art student come in once on a Monday very upset because they had let a client talk them into using all butter in their buttercream over the weekend for their wedding cake on a very hot, humid weekend, and it was a disaster. I reminded them that they are the professionals and it's up to them to be firm when ingredient function does not match the desires of the client. Butter's melting point is between 90 and 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and shortening's is 117 to 119. That is an enormous difference. Toba Garrett's Decorator's Buttercream incorporates fats that are shortening and butter, so that it still stays very, very white, but it's incredibly stable and it holds a lot of moisture and sugar. High ratio icing shortening not only holds a lot of moisture and sugar, but it also has emulsifiers, so it becomes very smooth. You can see by the shape of the 10X that it is incredibly humid right now. The lumps are enormous. I decided to use a wire mesh that was larger because it is challenging to get 10X through a very fine mesh when it's very humid. The key to making a really good American buttercream is mixing on low and adding slowly, and it's scrape, scrape, scrape. If you have a lump in this stage and then add more ingredients and move forward, you will have the exact same lumps in the next stage. So it's important that you follow the directions and add things slowly, stop often, scrape a lot, and take your time. I usually rely on my experience, but with this recipe, if it says mix for 1 minute on low, 2 minutes on low, and 5 minutes on medium, I use a timer. I add ingredients by shooting toward the bottom of the bowl. And you can see when I pull this out that everything on the bottom is stuck and dry. So I scrape, scrape, scraped, and then I had to sift the meringue powder, which is a little unusual, but again, high humidity. Meringue powder has flavorings in it and emulsifiers, so it's yet another way to stabilize your buttercream so that it doesn't melt in high heat. I used a farm milk, so there's a cream line, and it did add a tinge of yellow to the buttercream, but I don't have a problem with that. A vanilla bean paste is really beautiful in a buttercream, but because I want this to be white, I'm using a clear economy vanilla. This recipe also incorporates a good amount of salt, which gives it a really lovely flavor. And at no point can you taste or feel the Sweetex. It's not like the kind you find at the grocery store. This is an elevated Decorator's or American Buttercream. By mixing on low, it's so beautiful, you don't over incorporate air bubbles, because if you add too many air bubbles, as you ice a cake, you just have to work all of those air holes out. They don't look nice. Buttercream is meant to be served at room temp, but you can put this in the cooler for up to 2 weeks and in the freezer for 3 months, but it has to be covered to touch, airtight. Because I'm using this buttercream tomorrow, I'll use plastic wrap to touch and leave it at room temperature overnight. I'll also be testing a gluten-free baking spray to see if it really releases the cake the way a regular baking spray works. I understand that shortening is dubious, but there are occasions where it is exactly appropriate. So if you are the cake client and you want to have only butter and it's going to be a very hot day, or you live in a very hot area of the world, trust your cake decorator. Let them guide you to a good result.